So let's talk about homeless cleaning sweeps that the city does. And I'm going to continue doing this format just because it is super, I guess, beneficial for me to be able to share my screen so that y'all can see what I'm actually talking about, just so that, there's no like, oh, Carla's just talking out of her butt. Like I can show you what I'm talking about. You can see my screen, right? So let's talk about this. So the Ventura County Sheriff posted this thing, and I only found out about it because I saw that the Instagram page Southwinds, is that what they're called? Let me just, yeah, Southwinds Oxnard posted about it, which I follow. And we're going to get to that. We're going to get to it. Just hold on. But let's start with this, with the premise, right? Okay, so the VC sheriff posted this on their Facebook too, and they posted photos. And before we get into it, little disclaimer, I will be showing comments. I will be showing profile names, but my thing is, baby, you put it out there on the internet. It's public. It's public domain. So, I mean, I doubt that any of these people are going to see my video, but in case y'all do, it's out there. It's social media. Well, what do you want me to do about it, right? If you don't want people sharing or whatever, then maybe you shouldn't be out here saying the things that you do on social media. I don't know. So they put this thing out saying that in partnership with Supervisor Carmen Ramirez's office, which, wow, okay. They did oh yeah, and also these people, VC Public Works and County of Ventura in general, worked on cleanup of Ormond Lagoon waterway and also the Santa Clara River bottom in Oxnard. It says individuals in the encampment were given notice well in advance of the cleanup to take place and were offered support services and housing placement. And then later on, in the bottom, they say it in Spanish. But first of all, what resources? What resources were offered? This is so vague. It is so unspecific. It tells us nothing. It gives us no type of information. And yet, I went in and some folks commented, they're like, oh, look at this. Oh, thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your hard work. We should make the Democrat politicians who are all on salary throughout the pandemic coming. I mean, yeah, I don't disagree. But anyway, thank you for doing everything you can to keep our cities clean and safe. What? How is this keeping our city safe? How is this keeping our cities clean? But I'm getting too ahead of myself, right? I think there was like someone who said, oh, good thing they got like off the streets or something about like, I guess the homeless people not being there because they were in housing. And I'm like, how do you know? I'm like, what type of housing was it? Was it permanent or temporary? What kind of services did they get offered? And they were like, oh, well, I don't know, but it says in the post they did. No, baby, this post tells me nothing. It doesn't tell me how much in advance the people who were living here were told of the cleanup. Was it a month? Was it 2 weeks? Was it the day before? Was it an hour before they did it? How long? What does that mean? They were offered support services and housing placement. What type of housing placement? Was it temporary? Was it permanent? And where? Because last time I heard from the city, the housing for the homeless people or like the shelters are full. And no one wants to build housing for homeless anywhere. So where were they offered this housing? Here in Oxnard? Were they sent to another city? Again, was it temporary? Was it permanent? And how many of the people actually who were offered took it? So how many of these people now are sheltered or remain unsheltered? offered support services. What kind of support services? Who offer these support services? How easy is it actually for homeless or unhoused people to go in somewhere, to go into an agency and be like, okay, let me get these services? Like, do they have to show proof of like what, like ID? Because a lot of these people don't, like birth certificates. A lot of these people don't have access to that. A lot of these people don't, like, the way that they're dressed and the way that they look, they can't even walk into an agency or like an office. So how were these services offered? What type of services were offered? Like, how really easy is it for them to access this, all of this? Like, nothing was told here. Nothing was told. They just gave like a blanket statement giving us nothing. Yes, queen, give us nothing. And people, but look at what people are focusing on. They're focusing on the cleaning. Oh, thank you. Like, it's not dirty anymore. Thank you for like safe and clean. Because, and this is what I'm trying to get to. Homeless people are negatively associated with dirtiness and criminality. Like, this is what homeless people have been associated with now. When people think of homeless people, they think of criminality, whether it's just like general type, or they think of folks who are addicted to substances, and they think of uncleanness. They think of dirtiness. They think of homeless people as something to throw away like trash. And what I argue here is that these cleanups, these sweeps that the city does, I mean, let's not even talk right now about how violent they are, about how they don't solve anything, about how basically you're just moving homeless people from one area to the next without addressing absolutely nothing. Let's just focus on how these street sweeps, cleanups perpetuate, they help reinforce these stereotypes and these stigmas, these negative perceptions of homeless people, because y'all keep reinforcing this idea that homeless people are dirty and that they need to get cleaned up. Because the language that you're using reinforces that. Sweeps, cleanups, trash, picking up trash. Like, these are people and these are their belongings. And it's so funny because they show these photos, right? And they try to, like, first of all, look, I want y'all to see this. I can't highlight it, but you can see my mouse. Like, I want y'all to see this. Look at how this is organized. Tents, belongings, right? Right? Okay, there is trash here, right? Now they have trash cans here. These trash cans were not there. These trash cans were brought from the police, like the police and the city workers or whatever brought these trash cans so they could put the trash in there, right? These trash cans were not there. Okay, because these trash cans are only given to residential areas, to people who are housed. Because a lot of people will look at this and be like, oh, look at how the trash, look at, okay, where do you want them to throw their trash away? They don't live in a residential area. They're unhoused. They don't have access to trash cans or dumpsters. Where do you want them to throw away their trash? That's first of all. Again, but I want you to see, this is another view of this picture, right? So you see how this is the tent and this is the tent right here. Now I want you to see how, again, tent, bicycles, their belongings and stuff like that. I want you to see this, right? Now look at these pictures. Look at this. Look at the photos that the Ventura County Sheriff's Department is using as propaganda. on their Instagram. Look at this. And this is what people are like, oh my God, and look at the after, I guess, the before and after or whatever. Which I'm sorry, but like I don't know if you can tell, but there's still trash down here. There's still trash down here. The only thing that they cleaned up, I guess, was here. And a lot of people focus on this photo and they're like, oh my God, look at that trash. They're throwing trash everywhere. But remember what I told you to look closely at the other photos? That's not what that looks like. That's not what that looks like, because you see in these photos, everyone has their area. Everyone has their tent. Everyone has their living area. Everyone has their belongings. Look at these bags, boxes you can see over here. Everyone has their belongings by their area. So who did this? Who do you think threw and made this like strewn clothes everywhere? Who do you think did that? It wasn't the homeless people. It was the cops. It was the city workers. They threw all of this. Like and this and again, I'm not making this up. Look at it yourself. Look at these photos. Everyone has their tent and their living area. Everyone has their stuff together in their area. And yet they want to post this photo where blatantly, if you really think critically, if you really look at it, you're like, wait a minute, that's not how it was when the homeless people were living there. They're using this as propaganda. They're using this to like try to sway people. Again, they're reinforcing these things that the people think, that homeless people are dirty, that they throw trash everywhere. But let me tell you, actually, when cops go and they pick up or they take away homeless people, they're the ones that leave their trash and throw it everywhere. The cops are the ones that just throw everything everywhere. And this comes from me, that I've seen it, other people that have seen it, and now you're seeing it. This is not how it was before. It's not how, I mean, yeah, this right here is, there's trash. But it's really curious that, you know, there's still trash in there. I doubt that these people went in there and cleaned that up too. But the thing is that they're the ones that made it look like this, not the homeless people. The homeless people were actually very organized. Again, everyone had their area, everyone had their space, everyone had their belongings in their space. If anyone knows anything about the homeless population, is that they are very protective of their things. They are, that's all they have. They do not like it when other people touch their things. Like it is no, you cannot touch, it is known, you cannot touch another person's things. Like it doesn't, like this picture that they want people to think that this is how homeless people were living. No, it wasn't. Look at that. Look at that. You're showing it to us yourself. But they want to reinforce these stereotypes. They want to reinforce these comments of like, oh, excellent. Wow, good job. Oh, outstanding. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for cleaning up. Baby, they didn't clean up. They made the mess. It's like, you know, they're over here throwing everything and then saying like, oh, hard work, pat on the back, we cleaned everything. Baby, you made it. You threw all this. You created this mess. The homeless people didn't. And people like this just eat it up. They eat it up even though it's right there in front of them. The pictures are right there. But they eat it up. Right? Oh, that was my comment. That's what I said. Um, You know, and I said, I'll read what I said, and I directed this to, you know, the supervisor, Carmen Ramirez. Again, I asked what kind of housing was offered, temporary or permanent, what kind of services were offered. And then I say, take a look at these comments. People calling other human beings unclean and dirty, saying that they have no place here. Do you not understand that this is what funding clean sweeps does? It only serves to reinforce their prejudices that homeless people are unclean and undeserving of sharing space with house people. All of this done under the guise of doing something about the homeless population when in reality, nothing is done. You just shift homeless people from one part of town to the next and do nothing to address what produces homelessness in the first place. Like all of this is just propaganda to reinforce the negative stereotypes, to have people saying, "Oh wow, good job for cleaning up," when it's not homeless people that are doing the mess. It's the cops coming in and violently displacing people. It's the cops coming in and just throwing things everywhere. And I'll share with y'all some readings that I found. So a couple of years ago, I think like maybe 2 years ago, 1.5, I've lost track of time with this pandemic. I was actually doing a research project on homelessness. I actually did a survey. Unfortunately, I lost access to that, I guess, Microsoft account where I was able to see like the survey responses and the data and stuff like that. I still have my research paper that I wrote on it with a lot of the data, but I have to find it and pull it up. But I found because I don't know how many of y'all are aware, but at least for us in sociology, anthropology too, but mostly a sociologist, when we do research papers, we have to find, well, we don't really have to, but we kind of do. You have to find peer-reviewed scholarly sources, articles to kind of support or to use in your research, again, so that I guess you're just not pulling information out of your sleeve, you know, out of your like booty or whatever. So I found this article, these two actually, contesting the deviant other discursive strategies for the production of homeless subjectivities, which is as complicated as it sounds, but it's super interesting. This is a super interesting read. And I also found this one, the stigma of homelessness. So I want you to kind of like, or I want to share with you kind of what this talks about. So this paper, this one right here, talks about the way that language is used and the way basically that language, this is like through a linguistic lens, but the way that language is important and how language basically is used against homeless people. A lot of like this language is kind of like, again, like the unclean, dirty. So homelessness, people experiencing homelessness were politically marginalized through their semantic association with three major categories of social deviance: dirtiness, drugs, and danger. Again, what I'm trying to say, that when people think of homeless people, that's what they think about: dirtiness, drugs, and danger. When the city, I forget what, because this person was specifically talking about their city, but let's face it, this can be applicable everywhere, especially here in Oxnard. When the city provided vivid descriptions of vile and putrid camps to justify the clearing and cleaning out of tents and personal belongings, homeless activists argue that the city was dumping survival gear and driving journalistic stereotyping of homelessness, campers, and campsites. Okay, so that's basically kind of what I'm doing now, right? Journalists and city officials talked about how drunks and druggies were invading neighborhoods. So again, and I wanted to share this with you because this, like how people associate homelessness with drug addiction, substance abuse. But I think that the person who posted it either deleted the post or it was deleted. It was on Facebook. Someone posted in this group, my favorite group ever. Again, if y'all are seeing profiles and stuff like that, this is public. It's out there. Sorry. I mean, again. But it's not here anymore. So it's not there. So, okay, yeah, this person posted that thing on that group. Again, like clapping their backs like they actually did something. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not here anymore. That post is not here. No, it's not. I don't know if I got deleted because because I think that person actually replied to me. And yeah, I think I got deleted. So anyway, it was a post that someone did here. And this person said, again, they put it out there as public information. This person said that they lived around College Estates, which is like right in front of Oxnard College, and an area that I am familiar with. And they were kind of, I guess, complaining about a van being basically like it seemed like it was abandoned, right? And actually it's kind of like around the corner from where I am right now. So I actually was gonna go walk over there to see if it was still there, but I didn't. I have class and stuff. So, that in it by itself isn't too, I guess, yeah, it's not like inherently bad, that post by itself. Like, I guess someone complaining that there's an abandoned car. I mean, sure, for me, I guess personally, it's in an area of, this person put a photo, and again, I know this area well. It's in an area where no one usually parks. People don't park in that street. There really are never cars there, so it's not like it's blocking anyone's parking space. It's not. I mean, it's really not doing anything except just being there without moving. But again, it's not blocking anyone's parking space. It's not blocking the sidewalk or anything. It's not really a major obstruction. It's just there and no one's moving it. So to me, I don't really, but I mean, again, it's whatever, I guess. The thing is that post could have just been left at that. Okay, this person could have just been like, oh, well, there's an abandoned car. They stated that they think that it's been there for 6 months, which I passed that street in the past 6 months and I don't remember seeing that car. I used to go walking and I would walk down that street. I've driven down that street with my partner, and I don't really remember seeing this car there, like how they said that no one's moved it and it's in the same exact spot for the past 6 months. I don't actually remember seeing it there. So it's probably not even 6 months. It's probably been there for like a couple of weeks, maybe. So, but anyway, like I said, that's not really bad, right? It's the fact that they kept going. So basically the whole point was, hey, there's this abandoned vehicle. Does anybody know where I can report it? I already tried like talking to the city or the cops about it, and surprise, surprise, they didn't do anything. So this person, I guess, just wanted the car removed or whatever. Done. That could have been the end of the post right there. I mean, sure, it's not really something that's my concern, but I guess maybe to them it is. That's fine. It's the fact that they had to add like this information, that why are you like these speculations about the car, and they were alluding to the possibility of it being like homeless people living in there, and they called people druggers, like druggers as a noun, like, oh, maybe it's just a bunch of druggers, which is so horribly, like, first of all, Like, how old are you? Is this like 1953? First of all, and secondly, it's like it's the language just, I'm laughing at the person using the language. I'm not laughing at the language because the language is actually very uh it's really, it's crass, it's crude, it's just full of prejudice and like stereotype. Why do you call people druggers? That's weird. And I actually commented that. I uh I asked, I'm like, well, where's administration? What happened to because supposedly in this group you can't use derogatory language. And I had already caught someone else using the word junkie to refer to themselves, to refer to people who are addicted to substances, which is also very highly um it's just a really like don't do that. It's just really discriminatory, like, and I had replied to that person and been like, yo, like, why is this comment still up? Like, you know, kind of just like I had kind of commented alluding to the fact that like the administrators kind of picked and chose what comments were up and what comments were deleted. And also, like, I was subtly implying that it was a bad look for certain administrators to kind of, that it seemed that they were in favor of people using this derogatory language against folks with perhaps addictions, substance addictions. Yeah, so I think they deleted it actually. But again, it just reinforces like what this is talking about. Like these are stigmas, like these are associations that people have with homelessness, and the cities, and by that is to say like city government, city officials and stuff like that, like law enforcement, they reinforce these stereotypes, they reinforce these prejudice by like using these terms, like, oh, let's make our city clean, or let's do clean sweeps, let's clean up these encampments, right? um and in this one is just more talking about, I guess, like this one's talking about it like the words and the language, and this one is more so talking about like why, I guess, like the why behind why homeless people are stigmatized. And so it says here, let me see. Stigmatizing attitudes towards poor people, particularly the tendency to blame them for their situation, result largely from two mutually reinforcing social psychological processes. One has socio-political roots, the other cognitive perceptual basis. So the first one, they say, like, it's two reasons basically, or kind of like two whys as to why people stigmatize homelessness. And the first one basically uh, is this ideology, the survival of stratification meaning like stratification meaning kind of like disparities, like inequality. Um, the survival of stratification hierarchies depends on systems of beliefs, values, and attitudes disseminated by dominant groups and internalized by most members of the society. So basically, like people at the top, I kind of telling you, oh, homeless people are dirty, unclean, and criminal. And then they like use things such as like, the way that they speak about them in city council meetings, the way that they speak about them like in newspapers and stuff like that. And then the regular folk, right, like the general society, general population, hear these terms, they read these terms, and they kind of like internalize them. So they're like, like almost sometimes subconsciously, like, oh yeah, like these dirty, good for nothing homeless people. Like, so they basically, it's like, I guess the people at the top are like feeding this propaganda at like the people, and the people are just eating it up, right? And this is in order to justify the existing social order. For example, if those at the bottom, and this is what I'm reading, For example, if those at the bottom of the economic heap are viewed as having arrived there because of their own shortcomings, responsibility is shifted from structural components of the stratification system to the individual, and the status quo is legitimized. So basically, what all that is saying is that it is in the best interest of people like the people who run the cities, the people who are in power, the people who have money. It is in their best interest to make the general population think that homelessness is an individual problem, right? So most people in society, when they look at homeless people, they say, oh, they're probably criminals, right? Oh, they're drug addicts, you know, they're addicted to substance. Like it was their own doing. Like that's why they're homeless, because it's their fault. It's their fault they're homeless people. And if they really wanted not to be homeless, they would go and get a job. They would go and seek the resources, right? So like it's placing the blame on homeless people. Like it's your fault you're homeless, and it's your fault you continue to be homeless. Because if people actually looked at the issue of homelessness and they started connecting it back to like, oh, you know, issues of housing and like housing insecurity, and that there really is no housing in Oxnard, and that we have a bunch of landlords, a bunch of people who are bleeding people dry for rent. That rent is so high around here that even people who have jobs can barely afford it, or are barely scraping by. If we take a look at homelessness and tie it back to the fact that there is a lack of mental health resources, a lack of adequate ways for people, especially people who are poor, who don't have money, to get good mental health services from people who actually care, from people who are actually going to sit down and try to help these people, right? If they started looking at homelessness as an issue of like, you know, tying it back to again that there is a lack of services for people who are or who could be addicted to substances, that there's no really accessible rehabilitation around here in Ventura County to help people get off these substances, right? If they choose to. That there's like, again, that maybe this ties like to this whole notion of like discrimination of like gender, or people who have to, who not have to, but like who suffer gender violence. That a lot of domestic abused people are out in the streets because they're running away, or they're like, you know, they have no place to go and they don't want to stay in a harmful household, right? Because if people start seeing the issue of homelessness like that, if they start seeing the issue of homelessness not as like, if they start seeing homelessness as a symptom of something else, and that's something else being basically that the state or the city, the government basically is failing. It's failing its people to meet basic human services, to meet basic human material needs, then all of a sudden that's a systemic problem. That's a structural problem. And all of a sudden these people at the top, these people with wealth, these people with power, they're actually going to have to put in work. They're actually going to have to try, right? Then all of a sudden these people over here who really don't care, maybe, who are in charge of like the housing in Ventura County, they're actually going to have to put in work instead of just sitting around and doing God knows what. You see, it's easier to blame someone else for something. It's easier to say, oh, it's you, it's your fault, than actually reflecting and being like, oh, wait, you know what? Maybe I'm not helping either. or maybe something else needs to be done, because once you start thinking like that, you're going to notice that you're going to have to put in work, that you're actually going to have to do something. And a lot of people don't want to do that. A lot of people don't want to put in the work, and it's reminding me of something, because before this, I woke up this morning and I was looking at things, and I was like, I just really want to remember what I was thinking about, because I was thinking about that, about how people just fundamentally don't want to put in work. Like they don't want, like they want things to change, but they want other people to do it for them. Like they want other people to fix these problems. When in reality, it's like, oh, because I was seeing the comments, right? And there were some people, and I applaud these people. There are some people who are out here questioning and saying, hey, you know what? Like, oh, the van thing. So the post about the van and the abandoned vehicle, there were actually people in there saying, hey, you know what? It's not bothering you. Like, why are you so concerned? It's not bothering you. There's maybe someone's car just broke down and they don't have money to tow it. They don't have money to fix it. Like you don't know what's going on with these people. Like it's really like other people were saying, hey, it's not blocking anyone's way. It's not taking away your parking. Like, why are you so bothered about it? And other people were replying and they were saying like, oh, well, all of these people, defending this, why don't you let them park in your driveway? And it's like, yeah, maybe we should do that. Imagine that. Imagine someone needing help and you actually helping them. Yeah, that's what people should be doing, actually. Wow, what a concept. Or like when we talk about homelessness and like the homeless issue, and people are like, oh, well, all of these people defending or like supporting homelessness, why don't you let them stay in your houses? You know what? Maybe, yeah. Maybe, yes. That's what people should be doing. Maybe, actually. And it's just so funny to me that in this society, like this society is so individualistic. The society sees helping others as like a punishment or something like that. As like something, oh, well, why don't you do it? Like, why don't you help like homeless people? Like, believe me, if I had the means and resources, I would. And I think that other people should do that if they have the means and resources. Yes. I believe in a society where we are a collective, where we help each other if we need help. If we are able to help, then we should help. That should be our responsibility. Yes. But like people see that as this ultimate, just like as a punishment or something, as like, I don't know. But again, the last point that I'll address is and I wrote it down. I wrote it down just so I could remember this thing. Like my concerns, I posted about wanting to know who runs the Southwinds Instagram account. Because they reshared it in their story and they tagged Carmen Ramirez. And it's just like, who runs this page? Who runs this page? Like, who are these people? And why are you supporting state sanctioned violence against homeless people? Because that's what it is. Why are you supporting people reinforcing these prejudices and these stereotypes, these harmful ideologies against homeless people? Why are you supporting that? Why are you supporting these clean sweeps, which only reinforce this dirty image of homeless people, that people are subhuman, that are undeserving? It's concerning to me because you see Southwinds is where a lot of migrant families live. A lot, like the community is already marginalized. So it's very concerning to me that someone runs that Instagram page and this person obviously has this mentality of like, oh, these people are deserving of help and these people aren't. Like that's dangerous to me because at what point might they actually turn on a lot of these people in South Winds? And like the same way that they might see homeless people like, oh, it's their fault. Their fault that they're homeless. They are dirty. They are drug addicts. They are criminals. And if they wanted, they could get help. So it's like, at what point are they going to start seeing migrant families that way too? At what point are they going to place the blame on individuals in South Winds for the way that South Winds is? Like, it's concerning, right? I don't know. That's just me though. It's a lot. It's a lot to think about.